let's style the modules. So the modules has a fairly complex behavior, right? At a wide screen, it shows 4 columns. As it becomes smaller and smaller, we hide the right-hand side, like the status bar. As it becomes smaller, it has one single column, and then it hides the menus, right, and the navigation sidebars, and the top right and the top left position, right? So let's create our own version, and first let's focus on each portion, each component here. We'll focus on each one at a time. First, let's take a look at the top level buttons. This gives us a chance to play around with some of the button classes from Bootstrap, but also implement some drop downs, right? Also using Bootstrap widgets and components, as well as using combination of icons to combine them and stack them together to make more complex icons, right? So let's start off with the top level modules control. So this is a modules control. So this controls being able to collapse the modules, add modules, and so on and so forth, right? So let's implement that in a file called modules control. This module control is made up of several things, right? A whole bunch of buttons, this drop down over here, and also this check mark, which is it's a green check mark, and the background is white, right? Unfortunately, the icons that we're using, React icons, you can only have one color, right? So you can make the whole thing green or the whole thing white, right? But not a combination. Here you have 2 colors, green and white. The regular icon, the check mark would be transparent, right? You can't set the color. So the only way to combine it is to combine 2 icons. Like this one, for instance, it's a combination of a circle, a white circle behind it, and on front of it is a green check mark. So let's see how you would combine that. So for instance, here's a simple green check mark component, right, that allows me to build and combine several icons into one, stack them up, right? So for instance, you could combine like a camera icon, and then around it you can make a square or circle or some other icon to highlight the camera icon. So here's a combination of that. So let's create a little component under the modules directory, and in there, let's bring in 2 icons: the check check circle, and there's just a plain circle. The circle will be just white, or the circle will be just white, right? And the foreground, and then the check mark will be a green. So text success is green, and text white is just white, right? So the icons are being colored, and then put some one on top of the other. This one is going to move this so that the other one is on top of the other, right? Okay. So once we have the check mark, we can combine it, into another button, like the publish all button, right? And then the module, we can combine it with the plus icon, right, to create the button to create new modules, right? So text together with icons. Yeah, so let's do that. So in modules control. So for modules control, we're going to reuse that check mark in a minute. So here we're going to, let's copy this content. And then this content over here. All right. So this content is implementing a few things. First of all, it's implementing just a simple button that combines the plus sign, which is white, I'm going to style it white, and then the text, the word module, and the whole thing is going to be button danger for red, right? So that gives it the color red. And then down below here, you have we're using the class name dropdown. So this is one of many widgets that Bootstrap supports. Here, if you look for the dropdowns, the dropdowns is a Bootstrap widget that is not implemented with the regular select option that is default in HTML. Instead, it combines a button together with a list of options, and it renders as such, like this, right? So you click on it, and it displays this little list, and then it goes away. Also, it highlights, right? And we select it, it gives this highlighted style. And then you can use JavaScript, to capture which option you clicked on. Okay. So using this snippet, right? I implemented this drop down. We have the button here, which is going to be the check, the green check mark, and publish all. Basically this. We're trying to implement that right here. All right, and then you have these options here that also use a check mark. Yes, right. All right, so there it is. Each one of the line items uses a check mark plus the text, the check mark plus the text, right? And the publish all button also uses a check mark, right? Which we just imported over here. Okay. All right, we have that. Once we have that, we can import it into the modules component. But before we do that, for this to work, for this dropdown to work, to hide and show and display and highlight and whatnot, this relies on JavaScript, right? And we've only imported the Bootstrap CSS file. But if you remember, when we install Bootstrap, not only CSS gets installed, right, but also JavaScript. But we never imported the JavaScript side, right? So let's do that now. Let's import the Bootstrap JavaScript. It's under the same directory, but distribution directory, but then JavaScript in there, Bootstrap main JavaScript, right? So let's grab that, and we're going to do that at the root index where we imported Bootstrap style sheet. Right, we're going to import also the JavaScript. All right, now the dropdown is going to work. So once we have that, we can import the modules into the modules control into the modules index. So let's do that. Let's bring in the modules control into the index here. So at the top, right, we're going to import the modules control. Import. All right, there it is. Okay. It's not quite working. You have the core status over there. We need to style the core status, taking up all that extra space, right? Because it's rendering horizontally, it's supposed to render vertically, right? So we'll do that in a minute. And we'll also configure this to fill in the remaining space, right? So this is going to become much more narrower, right? And then this will be able to go all the way to the right, and in the middle we'll have it so that it expands, right? And that's done in the home screen. This is still a table in the home screen. Remember that, right? We have to remove that and convert it into flex, right? And we're going to give the one in the middle column, right? We're going to have that grow, right, and take up the width of the screen. But we don't have that just yet. Now the publish all, notice that if I click on it, it does toggle on and off. If you didn't have the Bootstrap JavaScript, this wouldn't work. Right? So this works nicely. Right? And notice that I did not implement all the other buttons, so I'll leave that to you. Right? You can implement all the other buttons, such as the collapse all, the view progress, and whatnot. Right? So all right. So what else? So now let's focus on the modules themselves. So the modules right now is just a whole bunch of nested lists, right? An outer list containing an inner list. The outer list is a list of modules. So module 1 is week 1, module 2 is week 2, and so on and so forth. And then each one has a sublist of various lessons, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to add some classes, as we did earlier, right? We're going to convert these lists into list groups, right? It's a nice place to start off, right? And then override them to make them look like we want. And so the outer UL is going to be a list group, and then the inner line items are going to be list group items, and then they're going to be nested again, right? We're going to have the inner lists are also going to be list groups, so list groups within list groups. So let's do that. So let's start with list group. Right, so let's apply, and let's see. So UL, LI, and UL and LI. Let's not go that far off into nesting. Let's just go into like that. There we go. Do you want to nest it too much? So this is week 1, and so this is these are various lessons. So this is maybe lesson 1.1, lesson 1.2, lesson 1.3, right? And then in here you have other lessons. So this is lesson 2.1. Oh wait, wait. All right, whatever. I'm going to do one, and then I'll just copy the other ones. So I don't want to have style a whole bunch of them several times. All right, so the outer is going to be a list group. So the outer one here is going to be a list group. So it'll be class, list group, and then each one will be a list group item, list group item. Okay, and so this one, and then this one too. Okay. Then the inner ones are also going to be list items. So there's going to be a list group like that. And then each one, this will be a list group item. And apply that and like that. Okay, so basically it's just two nested list groups. Okay, all right. And then we're going to remove the roundedness like we did earlier, right? So the outer ones, we're going to remove it here, and the inner ones too, right? The inner UL as well. No roundedness anywhere. So these become just straight. Or maybe not. Why is this one not rounded 0? Oh, put it in the ID, sorry. There we go. Okay. What else? We can add some margins at the bottom, right? If you have so let me remove this over here. So let me copy this several times. So say you have 2 of these, week 1 and week 2. So this is week 2, right? And this would be lesson 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Right? Notice that they are flush one with the other, but the target one, actually we have some space between the modules. There's some space, right? So that's like a gutter in between. So we can add some margins between the line items, right? So for instance, what we can do is that we can add some margins. So margins at the bottom of say 5, right? And so for instance, we can say each line item, each module here, we can add some margins here. So notice we're adding some space in between. See that, right? And so this would be true for each one of these, right? Each line item would have some space. Okay. What else? We can also add some color, right? Some border color, some secondary color, some background color, right? So the line item itself, right? We're going to add some borders all around, maybe some border gray, right? And then the background of the title. The title has a different like grayish color, right? So we're going to use BG background color secondary, which is like a light gray. There it is, right? Plus some padding all around, some padding at the beginning, so we can move this a little bit to the a little bit, add some padding all around, some padding from the left hand side. What else? Let's see. Rounded list group. Okay, so same thing for each one of the lessons, some padding all around each one of the lessons. So the lessons here, let's add some padding here, like that, right? Same thing for the lessons down here. And so here, we want to do the same thing for week 2 here, like that. Okay, all right. All right, what else? Okay, so we did that in several of these. Plus, we can start overriding. So a combination of classes and combinations of applying utility classes to the DOM, right? So we're going to override some of the coloring so that we can add some borders on the left side. Override the gray is a little bit too dark, right? So let's override some of that, and let's add that to style.css. So these are all Bootstrap classes that we are overriding. We don't like your gray; it's too dark, right? So I'm going to change that. So there it is. So we changed some of the secondary color. We also added some borders on the left hand side over here. We had this class WD lesson that was green. We changed it to the border left to be three pixels wide, solid, right? And I think we have on surrounding this. Let's see. I think we're missing something there. Let's see. That's from I guess this line item. We might have forgotten something. Let's see. The line item list. Okay, so I forgot probably this padding 0. We're removing any padding. Okay, remove any padding. There we go. And also over here as well. No padding there. There we go. Okay, so it's looking much better. Probably the first one. There we go. Right. So this is looking more and more like what the target screenshot is asking us to do. Right. Plus, we can start adding, some of the check marks. Maybe we can combine it with we can combine it to implement these toolbars, right? These little components on the right hand side that allow us to to move this around, to pop up a menu, right? So we can have its own component that just does that, right? That might include this drop down, right? And so that could be a component that we can just call it maybe the lessons control, right? And then the other would be the modules control, which would be the same thing plus a button that allows you to add content of different type that pops up the dialogue and whatnot, right? So let's create the shell for that. So we'll call this kind of like the lessons control, and we'll call this like the modules control. So let's create the lessons control here. Let's see. Yeah, so let's create the lessons control buttons. Each one of these has its own dialog box or drop down, but we're not getting to that portion yet. Right now, only the buttons and the icons, but not the dialogues and the drop downs, not quite yet. So once we have that, we can bring that into the lessons here. Each one of the lessons. Let's see. So these are the lessons over here, and add them at the bottom. Perhaps here we can say, bring in the lesson control button. There it is. Right, and we can just copy this into several of our lessons like that, right? And you would do something similar, right, for the modules controls. Okay. Yeah, so the module control, do on your own. We can add a vertical grip, right? So kind of like this icon that starts off at the beginning of the row. So all of these have it. Yeah, the modules have it. Here you have this grip component. We'll need to import that. It's not called that. No. There we go. And we can add that to the lessons. each one of the lessons like that, right? So we're painting the screen, right, with all these icons, these buttons, combining them, hopefully to be reusable components that you can then you implement further dialogues and drop downs and whatnot, right? But we can do that a little later. But how about the home? So the home screen. So the home screen, we are looking at actually at the home screen, right? The module screen is the basis, right, of implementing these, right? That expands nicely, like we were expecting, right? But the home is basically is a table that brings in two components, right? The modules component that is in the center, plus the status on the right-hand side. And so let's revisit this, in particular because the home screen is implemented as a table, right? So in the home, is a table, right? And we don't want that. This should not be a table. Let's, we can remove that and revisit this and use, something like maybe flex or something like that, right? To re-implement this, okay? Right. So notice that this layout of the sidebar and the modules actually works because this was already implemented as flex, right? In courses, we did replace the tables with flex, right? And the sidebar is on the left-hand side, and the main content on the right is configured to take up the whole screen, right? But is not right now. It's not configured to be able to handle the courses status. So let's revisit the courses status. Let's take a look at the courses status again. Right, so the courses status can be implemented as a component that we have here, I believe, status in home. There it is, right? So let's revisit this. Right. So let's re-implement this. Right. We're using the same checkmarks that we implemented earlier. Oh, several lines. There we go. All right, so that looks much better. Right, just a few of the buttons, just using icons from React Icon, and the text and the secondary color for the background for the buttons. Right, and then when we can re-implement the home screen so that instead of using the ugly tables, right, we can replace them with just flex, like we did earlier for the courses screen, right? For the courses screen, we did the same thing, right? We did the sidebar on the left and the main content on the right. Here, we're doing this kind of a little bit backwards, right? Because the main content is going to be on the left, which are going to be the modules, right? Whereas the courses data is going to be the sidebars, they're not going to change. So instead of earlier we had the flex fill on the second column, here the flex fill is going to be on the first column, because the first column is going to have the modules which we want to expand, right? Whereas the courses, right, we actually want to configure them so that they disappear, right? When we get to the medium-sized screen, we want them to go away, right? So yeah, let's re-implement that. So let's in the home, we're going to re-implement this to be here, the flex fill. We're going to close this. We're going to open up a new div here that actually wanted to disappear. We want it to disappear when it's too small. And let's close this like that. There we go. Right, so yeah, so in small screens, it doesn't show. As we get bigger and bigger and bigger, we bring up the course status, right? But in really small screens, we make it disappear. Actually, I think the course status should disappear before the Kanbas navigation, and not remove them both at the same time. Right, so actually, this should be medium, large. So first, the Kanbas navigation appears, right? And then when it gets even bigger, then we can bring in the course status, right? Just like the implementation that we have in the real Kanbas. All right. Okay. All right, excellent. Yeah, so let's take a look at the people screen. So the people screen is going to be a brand new screen that is going to list all the people that are in the course, right? So, starting, the next modules, we're going to have data structures that are going to have, collections of courses, collections of modules, collections of lessons, collections of users, right? And also enrollments. And enrollments are going to tell, you're going to say, well, which students are enrolled in which courses, okay? And so some people are going to have different roles. Some folks are going to be TAs, some folks are going to be students, some folks are going to be faculty, right? And we're going to use this collection of students or of users, right, to be able to log in first of all, right, be able to identify yourself and say, okay, well, I'm so and so, so that, for instance, when you go to your dashboard, only the courses that you're enrolled would be displayed, right? Also, right, if I'm a faculty and I go to the courses screen, I would only see the students that are enrolled in the course, not all the students, right? So, but we need to start setting up the user interface, right? So this user interface is just a simple table, um, using the striped layout so that every other row is highlighted, right? And again, all this is going to be a data structure, an array that we're going to iterate over. But for now, right, it's just going to be a component that is going to be a hard-coded table, right, with just a few headings at the top and some, just a couple of students showing here as an example. So let's create under courses, we'll create a people table. So under courses, people table, and it'll be just a simple table here with some headers for the name, login, role, total activity, and the role of the person, right? And then when we have that, we're going to replace the route that we had for people. Right now, the people route is hard coded to have this heading of people, right? So we can change that by we can change that by going to the courses, right, and replacing here the hard coded heading with the people table. There it is, right? So you have a people table. I just have here an example of one student. Please add a few more. But next week we'll give you an array. But please start off with some of these students. Just make up people. Doesn't matter who they are. Just make up some login IDs and roles and whatnot. Next week we'll give you an array that you can iterate over. Okay. The account screens. Right now, the account screens are pretty ugly, right? They're just the default input fields. So we can use the form elements to improve on this, right? Where we can just use we can use why is this? Let's bring up the sign-in screen. So we can apply classes such as form control, so class names such as form control, right? And we can remove the breaks. Let's create class control here too. And these links can be rendered as buttons. You can remove the breaks. These links can be styled as buttons, as BTN, and then button primary renders as blue, right? And we can make them take up the whole width, 100% width. The sign up could stay as a link. Also, we can add some margins in between so that they don't look so crammed up together, right? So for instance, we can add a margins at the bottom, a small margin, maybe 2 pixels, right? So that they don't look as crammed. like that. And we can do the same thing for the sign up, right? Sign up, we can apply the same styling to each one of the elements. So use that as an example. The account navigation here, we could use the same styling that we did earlier for the course navigation, right? So the account navigation, here, right? We can convert this into a list, right? So the class list group, right? And then each one of these would be a class name list group item. Oops. Right, and so do the same overrides that we did earlier, right? Removing the breaks. And so here we can add the WD. I think it was WD, wasn't it? And remove some of the styling. Remove the rounded, right? Remove all the borders. Right, and the colors of the text, I think, was that not this one. This was text danger is red. And the sign-in screen, I thought the class was WD list group. Maybe not. What was it? Account styles would be the course navigation. List group, WD, list group, link. These are hyperlinks. What's the difference? WD, list group, WD, list group, WD. Oh, active. That's what we're missing, right? This has to be active. There we go. All right, so sign in and you have the active there. Okay. All right. What else? So after practicing, right, all this, that we're giving you most of the code, right, for you to get it up and running on your own, right? Try to recreate the the styling for the assignments, right? So make it look as much as you can, right? So it looks like this, right? It has the obviously none of this has to work, right? We're only just building the user interface. Later on, this will work, right? But for now, right, we're putting all the placeholders, all the buttons, all the input fields, right? And in the upcoming assignments, we'll make this actually create new assignments and delete assignments and all that, right? But on your own, try to using the same examples that you've seen so far, how to style modules, right? How to style home and all these drop downs and buttons and whatnot. Try to recreate the assignment screen where you have the check marks and the similar icons. They don't have to be exactly the same, but more or less follow the same look and feel. So you have a list of assignments, and when you click on an assignment, it goes into an editor, right? Where you have at the top, an input field that allows you to edit the name of the assignment and a text box. Eventually, this will become a WYSIWYG editor, right? That you can make things bold and italic and bullets and things like that. Right now, we can't do that. So try to make it look like this. At some point, we're gonna, unless you want to explore that, right, and add your own little WYSIWYG component, but it's not required. And then down below, just a couple of drop downs, and an input field for the points, and then a couple of check boxes and drop downs for configuring, how to submit the assignments, right? And when is the due date, right? When who's assigned to, the due date, available from, until. Okay.